our country director, Nathan Bliti, the resident representative, Faye Borough Office, head of the UN community, donor community, the diplomats here. Thank you all for coming. Before we start the event, I will take you through our agenda for today. First, we will have the welcome note by Nathan Bliti, the country director for Cabo Verde, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Mauritania, and Senegal. Then we will have the opening remarks by the Honorable Minister, C.D. Kerr, Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs. Then we will have the key messages by our country economist, Mehwish Ashraf. This will be followed by the short media engagement where we will have the media houses here present to ask few questions. Then we will move on to the first session. That's the macro overview, the macro poverty overview, a conversation. We will have the key findings from the economic update by Mehwish, our country economics. This will follow by the poverty findings by Serin Toure, the country poverty economist. Then we'll have the panel discussion. This will be moderated by Hamidou Jawara, an economist at the University of the Gambia. And the panelists for this session are Mamadou Juldebari, the resident representative for IMF. We'll have Abdoulaye Diallo, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. And then we'll have Dr. Momodou Mustafa Fane, Associate Professor of Economics and Dean of School of Business and Public Administration, University of the Gambia. After the panel discussion, we'll have a short Q&A session. After the session, Q&A, then we'll have the second session. The second session will be on the human capital in the Gambia. Under this, we'll have data for human capital. We will have Penny Williams, Senior Social Protection Specialist. She will join us live. Alison Grimsland, our Education Specialist, she will also be joining us live. And Dr. Samuel Mills, our Senior Health Specialist, he will also join us live. After their presentation, we will have the panel discussion. This panel discussion will be moderated by Ms. Fatim Baji, Communication Strategist. And the panelists will be Dr. Ahmad Ba, Executive Director, NANA, Dr. Channobari, Vice Chancellor, Islamic International Open University, and the President of the Writers Association of the Gambia. We will also have Dr. Keba Marena, the Executive Director of the Westfield Clinic. After this panel, we will have the Q&A session, then closing remarks by Faye Borough Office, the resident representative. We hope you will stay throughout the program. For now, I will invite our country director, Nathan Bliti, to deliver the welcome note.
Good afternoon. Honorable Minister Keita, Permanent Secretaries, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the private sector and civil society, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I'm delighted to welcome you to the launch event of the World Bank annual publication, the Gambia Economic Update, Coming Back Stronger. This is the second edition of the report. The first edition was published last year during the COVID-19 pandemic. This report is being released amid the conflict in Eastern Europe, the spillovers of which are being felt across the globe, including in the Gambia. For that reason, the report expands the analytics beyond the macro poverty update and shares policy suggestions on addressing structural challenges that can help the country weather external shocks. The report also stresses that evidence-based and data-driven policymaking will be key to raising the sustainable long-term growth potential of the economy, especially human capital accumulation and enhancing public service delivery. The Gambia's economy was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, like most of the world, but has since begun to recover in 2021. Despite a sharp contraction in international travel during 2020, the country performed better initially than similar tourism-dependent peers, thanks to high official remittances and agricultural growth. The fiscal and current account deficits have begun to widen in 2021 as the government sought to kickstart the economy and invest in its infrastructure, but public debt has declined relative to GDP. Inflation picked up again in 2021 after cooling in 2020. The lockdown measures initially caused widespread job losses and high levels of food insecurity, but pandemic-related support measures that have helped support the poorest households and poverty levels are estimated to have fallen in 2021 after rising in 2020. Looking ahead, the Gambia looks set for modest growth in the medium term, driven by a rebound in tourism, and I'm glad to see His Honorable Excellency, the Minister of Tourism here, and as well as in the agriculture sector. However, a low vaccination rate, weather-related risks to agriculture, and the rising costs of living globally, exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, could slow this recovery. Although its direct investment and tourism and trade links with Russia and Ukraine are limited, the Gambia is a net importer of food, fertilizer, and fuel. As a result, widening current account deficit, rising inflation, particularly food inflation, eroding household incomes, and high fiscal deficits leading to domestic borrowing could threaten the sustainability and the recovery and hinder poverty reduction. Going forward, fiscal policy reforms are needed to build the fiscal space to respond to future shocks. Moreover, human capital will be key to sustained growth. The government will also need to improve its spending efficiency, including in its investments in social protection, education, and health. I am very excited that we have the great panels joining us today to discuss all of this. The macroeconomic landscape of the country and the state of data for evidence-based policy in human development sector, which is the special focus of this report. I would like to thank you all again for taking the time to join us this afternoon, and I look forward for an exciting, engaging discussion. Neofar.
Thank you very much, sir. We will now have the Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs, Honorable C.D. Kerr, to deliver the opening remarks. You are welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, all. Resident representative of the World Bank, Nathan Belletti. Resident representative of the IMF. Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. Honorable Minister of Tourism, His Honorable Ba. Representative of the development partners. Distinguished panelists, civil service organization here in present. Members of the media present, ladies and gentlemen, and all other protocols duly and respectively observed. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to the launch of the 2022 Gambia Economic Update, which is quite crucial during these unprecedented times, as it provides key insights on the economy and sets the pace of the economic policy reform and planning over the short to medium term. Let me seize this opportunity to extend our appreciation to the World Bank team for their unflinching support and the time and effort dedicated to the production of this brilliant report on the Gambian economy. On that note, I will take this opportunity to thank the country economist, Madam Ashraf, for having been around for 3 years, and this is the pinnacle of her assignment. As she concludes her engagement, we are pleased to launch the report.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Our government is more than ready to implement the reforms based on the findings of this report and count on the continued support of the bank group and other development partners to achieve this. As the report rightly states, the Gambia got off relatively lightly from the COVID-19 pandemic and embarked on a quick path to recovery despite the negative impact on some of our key growth drivers, especially in the areas of tourism and trade. GDP growth is estimated to be 4.3% in 2021, a remarkable performance when compared to 0.6% registered in 2020. As a result of the strong rebound in the services and industry sector, revenue performance, on the other hand, highlights the need for us to ramp up the domestic revenue mobilization efforts, as we have tallied behind a little bit. Domestic resources mobilized in 2021 declined compared to that of 2020. To that effect, we have embarked on a series of reforms to improve the tax administration and streamline tax expenditure. This includes the establishment of a tax policy unit within the Directorate of Economic Policy and Research, under which a comprehensive tax policy for the country will be developed. Public debt increased slightly as we depart from the debt relief initiative from 2020 and the debt sustainability initiative. However, we will continue to consolidate and manage our debt portfolio while simultaneously providing for infrastructure financing in the medium to long term. Our impressive growth trajectory has been put to a test with the emergence of the recent Ukraine crisis, which has further disrupted the supply chains and increased global inflation, leading to a tightening of the monetary policies. The effects of this crisis are now being felt domestically, as Russia and Ukraine are global players in the supply of basic commodities such as wheat, oil, gas, and maize, which are highly consumed in the Gambia. In fact, 30% of our wheat imports used to come from Ukraine. Additionally, the war's impact on fuel prices has also trickled down into the economy, collectively putting strong inflationary pressures on the economy. The ultimate and very worrying effect of this is the erosion of real incomes and the high risk of pushing more of the population into poverty. This year's themes resonates very well with us, as it is the effects of the devastating events of 2020 and 2020, and focus on resilience that will pull us through 2021, have reinforced our belief in ourselves to push through adversity and come back better. With that said, our government's aim is to leave no one behind, especially the most vulnerable groups in society. This is why government is doing all it can amid all the challenges to continue to subsidize certain vital sectors such as fuel, even though it is a very big pressure on the budget. We will continue to make health, education, and social safety top priorities. And to achieve our goals in these areas, I will echo an important aspect of this report, the significance of timely and accurate data to aid and enhance human capital and ensure effective policy design and implementation. We are increasingly focused on data-driven policy formulation, and going forward, both the government and the ministry will use data very extensively to ensure that all policy pronouncements and policy directions are supported by a robust data in order to guide decisions. This report will serve as a guide to a comprehensive review of our policies with keen focus on recent economic developments and our economic outlook. The challenges ahead of us will be weathered if we focus on the priorities we've set for ourselves. It will provide useful policy recommendations to spur growth and progress on our path to bouncing back better, and most importantly, building resilience in our economy to withstand future shocks. I think what has become very pronounced now is that these shocks are going to be living with us. We don't know when the next shocks will come. So what is important as government is to build resilient policies guided by robust data in order for you to be able to bounce back as shocks come across. We eagerly look forward to our successful future engagements as we embark on implementing the recommendations of this report and to promote macroeconomic stability and growth. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to further solidifying our relationship, and we work together for the agenda to improve socio-economic development of the country. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. I will now invite our country economist, Mehwish Asraf. She will take us through the key messages from the report. Mehwish.
Get the light off. Get the light off. Go up there. Can I get my presentation, please? Good afternoon. 4.3%. Does this number ring a bell to you? Probably yes, to most of you. For the benefit of all, 4.3% is the provisional estimate of real GDP growth for the Gambia for 2021 as released by the Gambia Bureau of Statistics a month ago. Let's stick with this number for now until we get to April next year, and then we will get to see the final output, economic output for 2021. Now, what does this number mean? This means that Gambia is recovering from the shock of the pandemic, which is encouraging and in line with regional and global trends. The second natural question arises, is this enough? Not really. The long-term economic potential of the country's economy, as estimated by the World Bank, is above 5%. Third question, will this growth help reduce poverty, and for that matter, extreme poverty, and improve prosperity in the country? It will, and we have seen poverty declining in 2021 thanks to recovering labor markets, but not to the extent that we'd like to see. What needs to be done? And or even before going there, what are the headwinds to the near and medium-term outlook for the Gambia? Many, chiefly being the war in Ukraine and its impact on global food, fuel, fertilizer, supply chains, and prices, which will dampen the recovery and economic outlook for the Gambia. So what needs to be done to make Gambia resilient and prosperous? A Gambia that has skilled labor force, that has better and higher paying private sector jobs, higher exports, and the list goes on. Number one, build fiscal resilience. Why? The Gambia relies heavily on donor grants, which are volatile and have the potential to disrupt fiscal policy, or in other words, expenditure plans. The Gambia has also a high level of debt, which takes away almost a quarter of domestic revenues to service it and shrinks the government's piggy bank to spend on the priority needs for its people, such as building roads, constructing hospitals, training teachers, etc. What needs to be done? Collect more taxes, rationalize existing projects that are financed by debt, and enter into new borrowing only as a last resort and on the cheapest terms available. Second, diversify the economy, as it's largely based on agriculture and tourism. Both are seasonal sectors. What needs to be done? Enhance Gambia's competitiveness through connectivity, such as local and regional value chains, airports, seaports, as well as harness tradable sectors. Number three, invest smartly, as years of malinvestment and underinvestment have constrained private sector-driven growth in the country. How can it be done? Ensure efficient formulation, selection, implementation, monitoring and evaluation of new projects through all cycles, and start today. Number 4, and last, formulate evidence-based and data-driven policies, because data is powerful. It shows progress or lack of it. It shows what is working, what is not, and it provides a feedback mechanism to help us do things better next time. This applies to all sectors, including human capital, which is vital to realizing the potential of this country. Imagine a Gambian, or each Gambian, if they have unique national identification number saved in the civil registry, which is then linked with other government information systems, such as passport issuance. It would be a matter of just 5 minutes to go verify all the auto-filled biodata information, compared to what it currently takes almost 30 minutes to do that step. That would mean essentially 80 passports applications could be submitted a day compared to 15 currently. That is a big or a huge leap in efficient service delivery, and that is what Gambia should aim for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mehwis, for that wonderful presentation. We will now invite the Honorable Minister on stage and our country director. The minister has the media has few questions for you guys. So please. Second, let them bring in the chairs here. Members of the press, if you have questions, you can come in front so that we can move very fast. Yeah. No, 2 is okay. It's only 2 people. 2 is okay. No, after that, I'm learning more presentation. 2 is okay now. 2 is enough. 2 is okay. Yeah. Honorable Nathan. Yeah. Oh, let me take this off. Yeah. Okay, members of the press, if you have questions, you can come in front, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lolly M. Kamara from QTV. I have a question for the Honorable Minister. We noticed that COVID-19 has played a huge role on our economy. As we speak now, we are seeing the update from the World Bank. What is your ministry going to do to improve or would focus on improving more?
Which is designed to generate 150,000 jobs in the next 5 years. And the jobs will be centered towards entrepreneurship, self-employment, targeting the women and youths particularly. The Ministry of Finance will ensure that the macroeconomic framework and policies are conducive towards fostering a private sector-led growth and also diversify the economy. The first challenges we are having as we speak right now is the concentrated nature of our revenue. We will have to diversify. As you know, we are tax-based, and it's a catch-22 situation. If you increase the tax, you're putting pressure, and that is automatically translated to cost of living. We as a government have not just left out the youth, have focused on just the youth and women. As we speak right now, government is really looking out for everybody in the country. We are issuing at great cost to the public coffers a subsidy on the price of fuel. And as we speak, even though word is out there, a subsidy on the price of fertilizer, and also even certain essential commodities like rice. Why I say rice? Because there is zero duty on rice. Technically, that's an implicit subsidy because this is a revenue source we could have got. That being the case, this government is an inclusive government and we don't want anybody to be left out. We call on the youths and the women to also step up. The challenges we have is the level of employment and engagement of these sectors. They should feel engaged, they should feel welcome, and the doors of government are open to all to come to the table and contribute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I am Pamodi Cham of the Point newspaper. I also report for CTV Africa. I have question and maybe it can be answered both of you. This has to do with the inflation, the increase in inflation in the country. I mean, recently, the Gambia government, through the central bank, decided to increase the monetary policy rate by 1%. So I just want to know, do you think that is a good idea to fight inflation? Because we realize that many people are complaining in the country, and then food items are going higher and higher every day. By increasing the monetary policy rate by 1%, is that the good idea in fighting inflation? Thank you.
Yes, I think inflation should be fought on all fronts because of the impact it creates in the economic system. When in an environment of high inflation, it causes a lot of uncertainties. It enables people not to trust prices, and people cannot plan effectively. That is why all economies globally fight inflation, and all tools should be deployed. Inflation is fought on two fronts. You fight inflation on the monetary policy side, on the money supply side, as well as the fiscal policy, that is government taxes and expenditures. What the central bank did to increase the policy lending rate by 1% to 11% is a step in the right direction. It's just an adequate dose to be able to tame the monetary supply side of the inflation. As you know, most of the inflation in the country is supply-induced, because why the inflation went up last month was the input of the increase of the reduction in the price of the fuel. When we were looking at the price of fuel last month, not this month, the level of subsidy was reduced because of the pressure. And the index, the inflation index, fuel is an all-encompassing, and it has an automatic one-on-one mapping to the inflation. That is why that was done. But notwithstanding, on the fiscal side, we are also mindful to ensure that we are supporting the monetary policy side by not immediately withdrawing the subsidies. Because if you increase the subsidies, it's like you are adding additional firepower, and that will increase inflation. So both the central bank and the fiscal policy are working in tandem in order to fight inflation. It is very, very important that what is happening in the Gambia in terms of inflation is not unique to the Gambia. The United States, the UK have all had the highest inflation that they are dealing with in the last 40 years. So it's a global phenomenon, and Gambia is not unique to that. The tools we have at our disposal have just been released. And of course, as you know, economic phenomena are lagging effect. We may not be able to see the immediate impact, but we expect, based on the models and the projections, that with this 1% raise in the price of the MPC rate and the fiscal side, we expect to bring back inflation under 1 digit. Gambia has traditionally been a 1-digit inflation country, and it is only global phenomenon like we are witnessing now that we have crossed the 2-digit line, and the government will do all it can to bring it back to be under 1%, to be under 1 digit, single digit rather. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Makutu Mane from Foria newspaper. My question goes to the country director. When speaking, you made mention of poverty level falling in 2021 compared to 2020, sorry. I want you to elaborate more on that. How?
So thank you for that question. I think what I want to focus on is the importance of government intervention in terms of responding to the needs of the poor and vulnerable during times of crisis. What we saw, based on the recovery of the of the Gambian economy, particularly during the crisis, was a strongly performing agricultural sector, where predominantly is the main source of income for most Gambians. In addition to that, we did see a recovering tourism sector, obviously not to the level that one would have wanted, but in comparison to many countries across the globe, and particularly in Africa, what we saw in Gambia was encouraging. Having said that, what we're seeing now is very disturbing. And for that reason, and with the inflation numbers that the Honorable Minister just mentioned of double digits, our biggest concern today is how this affects the poor and the vulnerable in the country. And for that reason, we continue to work very closely, particularly with the Ministry of Finance and with other development partners, on how to support the government in putting in place the right macroeconomic policies. But at the same time, we have to be equally concerned with supporting investment and growing the economy. And for that reason, I think there is a need to focus on the sectors where we think the Gambia has great potential. In the case of the World Bank, we believe that the tourism sector is a very important one, because it provides a big boost to the economy, but it also addresses the jobs issue. It addresses the supply chain issue. It addresses the sustainability of Gambia's natural resources. So for that reason, that's one sector where we think we have to continue to engage and capitalize on. The other sector, of course, is continuing the investments in the agriculture sector. I think that the Gambian agriculture sector has tremendous opportunities, and there's lots that can be done to improve productivity, to improve the opportunities to become a major supply chain for the country. So this is another area where we think we need to focus. All of this being said, we still believe that there's a strong role, an important role for the government to play in safety nets, in providing support to the poor and the vulnerable, because during these times, particularly in times when we see such high inflation, the first group to get impacted is the poor and the vulnerable. And for that reason, we will continue to work closely with the authorities to do whatever we can to help mitigate these impacts.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Honorable Minister. That is all for this session. We will take a 5 minutes break while we set up for our panel discussion, so you can stretch your leg if you want to walk around a little bit.
On all Gamcell data bundles. Buy 20 megabytes and get extra 4 megabytes. Buy 50 megabytes and get extra 10 megabytes. Buy 100 megabytes and get extra 20 megabytes. Any amount of Gamcell data bundle you buy, you will receive 20% extra data for free. Dial *302* data amount hash or go to your Yaiborom menu and choose your data bundle now. Gamcell data. It's fast, lasts longer and very reliable. Gamcell Yaiborom.
Planning to have an uninterrupted electricity and water supply from solar energy in the Gambia and beyond? Worry no more, because Solar Enterprise will provide you with the solutions at reasonable cost. We have experienced personnel who can install and advise you about your electricity and water supply with a warranty period. We have good quality solar products from North America and Europe. We provide services and sell products to individuals, organizations, institutions, private offices, communities, and government. These products are solar panels, batteries, charge controllers, inverters, water pump, water heaters, freezers, submersible pumps, and general solar accessories. Visit our stores at 48 Karaba Avenue and Brusubi Highway, or you can call us on 7657 479 980 8483 340 9400 or 635 9906.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C,